Suffrage is the right to vote in elections. Most nation-states that began from the revolutions of the 18th century restricted suffrage to specific people, women. Women had to fight for the right to vote. Before the 19th century, men and women had gendered roles in society. However, the expansion of European colonialism in the 19th century spread European norms about their gender roles. In several parts of the world, men's roles revolved around the patriarchal government and business or the public sphere. Women were considered the proletariat class because their roles revolved in the private sphere of their home.
Despite this idea, gender roles were different in different places due to culture, society, and social classes. During the 19th century, people all over the world found new ways to change gender roles. Ideas such as nationalism, socialism, and women's rights transformed the traditional values and moralities people had. In the new and colonized world, people began to form networks to fight for women's rights and influence new ideas, such as how to define gender, femininity, and masculinity.
During the Industrial Revolution, the women's rights reform mostly fought for workplace equality, but first they needed to achieve equal voting rights. This was mostly how the feminist movement had started and one of the first things that women began to fight for, the right to vote. Once they were in the workplace, they faced immense amounts of discrimination and poor treatment. The 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution granted that American women the right to vote, a right known as women's suffrage, and was ratified on August 18, 1920, which ended almost a century of protest.
The women's movement strives to end discrimination and violence against women through legal, political, and social change. Over the decade, young women have taken the lead in a wave of different feminist movements, democratic protests, and fights for social justice. It is important that the focus is on understanding the most recent wave of activism by considering some of the main movements that have been occurring. The abortion ban in Texas, campaign to defend democratic rights Brazil, gender-based violence India, sexual and identity rights Malawi.
Women's rights is an important issue present to this day. Here's how we can support. Raise your voice. Starting conversations through social media or in person will draw up support. Share local events with family and friends and call out insensitive comments. Start a fundraiser. Donate to women's movements and organizations. Volunteer.
Attend marches and protests. One very impactful way we can support the women's rights movement is by reaching out to different organizations like American Bar Association, ABA, UN Women, AWID Women's Rights, and Womankind Worldwide.
Created using Powtoon.